Now, hello everyone, and thank you. Let's see, we have our sound effects. Um, Today we have a few panelists, and of course we have my co-host Tank in here tonight. Tank, tell everyone hello.
What up? What up? What up?
Oh, we really like you, Tank. And we have a special guest. We have another co-host tonight, Miss Nikki, but we have a special guest, Miss Tisha. And just giving you a little background on what we're doing here. You know, our podcast is called Men Are From Mars. And here we try our best to help women understand men from a male's perspective, okay? Um, Many times y'all get in these little group chats and women tell other women things about men that are about 90% wrong, to be honest, you know? Um, and we want to give you the opportunity to fire a few questions at us, Tisha. So welcome, and you're on the hot seat. So let's begin.
Oh man. Okay. Well, just starting off, I want to say hello to everybody, to all the listeners. It is a pleasure to this is my first actual podcast that I'm a part of, especially calling in. So again, hello. Um I know I've come into a lot of issues with some men. Can't say all of them because everyone's not the same. But I do have a couple of questions that I would like to ask as well. Um, for one, I'll just start off with like a little simple question. Why is it so hard for certain men to commit?
Tank, I'll let you handle the first question, sir.
Great question.
Thank you.
And I apologize, but Tank, well, I didn't accidentally, I muted you so we wouldn't have the echo. And as a reminder, when you're not talking, just please mute your mic so we won't have a lot of playback. And when you're ready to talk, you can just unmute. But Tank is still muted. So I have a follow-up question for clarification. When you say why is it so hard for men to commit, I'm assuming you mean like in a committed relationship, right?
Right. Yeah, just for example, I did date one guy. We dated for a little over a year. But of course, you know, a lot of my guy friends that I've talked to about this situation beforehand, they normally used to tell me a guy knows whether or not they're going to, you know, in a sense, be with you within at least the first 3 months.
I was just about to tell you. For me, if it's somebody that I'm going to be with that way, I think I know the first day or a couple of days. Honestly,
Right,
if we kiss, we go together.
right.
Yeah, we go together. But I really don't think that. So here it is, and it's different. Like you said, I like the way you approach it with some men. So commitment is like it has to be beneficial. And I think that goes both ways with men and women. Because before you commit to a man, sometimes we have a list of things that we want, some boxes we want to check off before we commit. The same applies to men. And a lot of cases, the older we get, the more we have experienced, right? So some men go through phases. We're young, we don't see a need to commit, right? Because the spaces we're in, there's so many women and so much opportunity exists. So why commit? Like you're young, you're in college, or you're um, just exposed to a lot of women, right? What is the need? What's the purpose of commitment? Now, when you see that person, like you know what, I want them to myself, right? You kind of give them that commitment, but sometimes men will still have a few backups, right? A little something on layaway. And we go through phases. So over time, we get to a certain point where it's like, you know what? I want the stability, but it has to be a reason for it. Like, because a lot of adult men don't just fall in love like we did as teenagers, and that I think I always say to people that that's the purest love that exists is that teenage love because you love that person for them, right? So when you 13, 14 years old, think about eighth grade, ninth grade, and you're in love. What does that person have other than a haircut and some sneakers their mom bought them? But you loved that person, you loved them, so the commitment was easier. But in adulthood, um, it's hard. It's harder for women because you have a lot of challenges. You have to deal with um, men that are in the closet. You're dealing with openly gay men. Have a lot of men that are incarcerated, and we'll discuss the whole frontal lobe brain development part with women maturing so much faster than men and being established. You have that phase where you kind of outpace men as far as stability. So when you have your own place, you got a car, you're working, you're paying bills, man, he's still renting a trailer with his cousin. I'll stand with his mom. I'll stand with his big sister. So I think you all look for that commitment earlier than men do. And it's unfortunate that when we come around to it, it's like, we've kind of been through a lot and we're tired. We're ready to settle down. Um, and I know I said a lot without answering your question directly, but it's really, really, really complicated. Tank, do you want to chime in on why is it so hard for men to commit? Tank got ghost on
Yeah,
us. Oh, okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, man, I'm mad 'cause I was talking and I didn't know you had me muted. But you said pretty much everything that I was going to say, as far as the ratio of women to men, the fact that we've been through so much already, so much. Like me myself, I'm 41, been married twice, divorced twice. All right, now look at the position I'm in now versus I got married I think at 20 the first time. So the mental and financial space that I'm in now is totally different from when I was 20. So I got a different mindset on a lot of things. And we have so much, like you say, I have this conversation with a lot of people. I break down numbers. I'm like, I do the percentages. It's probably 10% of men that are actually that's single or unmarried and available. Because like you said, the rest of them in jail, they're gay or they're married. So with women, it's a whole, we have so many options. So it's like, why should I commit and settle down right now? And that's what I face that daily. Like, I've been married already, married, divorced. I don't want to get in a committed relationship right now. So if you're willing to deal with me, be my friend, whatever, cool. If not, I'm okay away because you can walk away. There's more out there. And Coach Sean, you mentioned being in love. I had a conversation with an ex yesterday. It was about being in love. I said, get married. It's not about being in love. He looks at the woman and he was like, "Oh man, she make a good wife. Oh, she make a good mother. Oh, I can see myself with her. I'm not in love with her, but she fits the character of the person I want to be with. Boom, let's get married." Versus a woman, she wants security and all that. So I asked her the same question, like, "What does a woman look for to get married?" I said, "See, you never mentioned once being in love. You mentioned security and all this other stuff, but you never mentioned being in love." Sure, yeah, you got a point. I'm like, yeah, because most people, when they get married, they're not in love, but they grow to be in love with the person. And you can fall in and out of love. But sorry, not said I went away from your question. But yeah, and then most cases, you're just not the one. Not saying for you, but that woman, he's not going to commit to somebody who he doesn't see as the one he wants to commit to.
So did we answer your question?
In so many ways, yes, but I also had some like follow-up things I wanted to add to what you guys were stating. With this particular instance that I've been through, just what, two years ago, I think it's going on 2 years now that had happened because it first started in 2021 and it ended just last year. Well, not last year, 2022. I apologize. Time is moving fast. Um, but it was really well, I'll start off by saying this, that originally um I wasn't in a sense looking for the commitment part of it. It was more so him bringing it up and stating that he wanted, quote unquote, to me to be the girl that he came home to. So my thought process was like, okay, well, you're coming to me with these, these things that you would want or like and need or whatever, but your actions just don't add up because I ended up finding out that he was talking to somebody else behind my back when it was supposed to be, of course, like, if we're dating and we're at that point or that stage where we're trying to be serious to,
Be
in a
exclusive.
sense, exactly. I kind of don't use that words, but so much because a lot of people use that word and they don't use it in the correct manner. But of course, yes, it was supposed to be an exclusive thing. So if we're dating and it's supposed to be me and you, no outsiders, then yes. Um, like I said, we did it for a little over a year, but the only issue I had was just, his actions. Everything sound good, but and nothing's adding up. And I started to see certain things later on, like certain actions, but I think that was just for a time period. I don't know why certain men do this, but they tend to only do but so much or just as needed or just to stay afloat in a sense when it comes to, okay, well, I did tell her this, so I might need to do this. But, if she don't notice it out and dropped off, well, I'm not going to worry about it. Not with me, because if you tell me something, I'm gonna stick to what you said. Now, if your actions don't match up with it, then I'm gonna just go ahead and say, hey, well, look, um, a lot of things that you've mentioned before, um, are not starting to add up
Right,
with your
right.
actions. You started out good, and then you fall off, come back, fall off, come back. Everything's okay. Granted, I I, in a sense, forgave him about the situation where me finding out with a girl that he was dealing with behind my back.
Oh,
Um, yeah, backstory with that one. He went to school with her in high school.
right,
They were dealing with each other for 10 years on and off.
right, right.
Um, he had a baby in a sense on her, but they weren't in a relationship and whatnot. But I ended up being a woman, and I reached out to her and I asked her because, of course, I was friends with his cousin before I met him,
Hmm.
and of course, me and her used to work together. So
Oh,
we,
this is a female cousin.
yeah,
Okay,
the female cousin was my friend,
right.
and I met her at a job that we used to work at together back in 2019. Granted, I don't talk to either one of those two no more.
Oh,
God
that
bless them.
happens. That's why
Yes,
people
that
don't like to
happened.
be play matchmaker because when things don't work out, it affects friendships and relationships.
Well, in this instance, it didn't because me and her were still fine, after the situation. She in a sense would put me on. She the one that put me on to the fact that he was talking to somebody else. But
Right.
and with her, she was always saying, "Well, you're not going to do my friends like that. You want to talk to my friends, but you have to understand that this could potentially ruin relationships for me because you want to get involved with my friends, and then now it's like I'm kind of stuck in between. You're my cousin, but this is my friend, and also being a woman at that, you have to understand that I would know how she feels and what she's going through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he wanted to cry and boo hoo cry at that. When I was like, look, I can't do it no more. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this. And I was like, no, I don't want that. Well, I want this. It's too late for what you want now that I'm trying to walk out the door.
I was
When
just
you
about to
had,
say, so
mm-hmm,
let me wrap it up for you, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, so in Tank, you can give your point of view on this too. Um, it's good and bad that he wanted that exclusive relationship, right? And it is good because you have some positive characteristics, right? Where he wanted to be exclusive, and basically he wanted you to himself. That's a plus.
right,
Um, and a lot of times men know that some women require, like, they don't want to share. So if this is what I have to do to be with her, this is what I'm going to say, right?
right,
That's a plus. But of course, on the downside, the bad part is when it's hard to do. Like, if a man commits to you and only you, um, it goes beyond you, right? So it has nothing to do with your hair, your nails, your booty, none of that, right?
mm-hmm,
It's where he wants to be at that point in time in life. Like, I'm good, man. I've done enough. I don't need that. Um, this is what I need to be doing right now. This is where I need to be for him. And like Tank said, you check all the boxes on what he's looking for. And we've transitioned from that teenage love to adults making a conscious adult business decision with someone that I can be with. And eventually they they kind of fall in love, right? Or like grow on one another, I think is what adults look for more than kids. You know what I'm saying? Kids fall in love. We fall in love. We really, really like the person, and we kind of, as adults, we do it in reverse order. Tank, help me out here.
Now you hitting all the point. You hitting the right points.
I wanted to make sure. Tell me this. What? Okay, and I like that question. Why is it so hard for men to commit? Give us another question. An easier question this time.
that was just my question that I had put in the chat just in case anybody missed what I did ask
Yeah,
for
I
the
like that.
ones
And
that did join.
if we have some male guests here, because we actually have a few people that are live in the chat room, if you want to answer that question, you can click on her question. Why is it so hard for men to commit? We're giving our best um, answer when it comes to this, and our entire series is dealing with you know male communication, right? And understanding why some men do the things that they do. Um, Hello, Jen. Welcome. And if anyone wants to call in and be heard, you can select one of the lines, the call in numbers. If you choose 3 through 7, you can call in and be a one of our guests here. So we're ready for your next question for us.
For my next question,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Well, another thing. Um, let's see, because I mean, I have a live and I have to just choose one. Uh,
No, we can go one at a time, but just give us a question that we can address.
right, right. I'm trying to pick which one I want to pick first. Um, okay, so just to go off because I really want to know this question that you guys have posted. Why is it so hard for men to share secrets?
Ooh, this is a good one. You're gonna open wounds. Go ahead, Tank. You go. You handle this one first.
You said why is it so hard for men to share secrets?
Yes, that is correct.
When you say share secrets with who?
It could be like their significant other.
It's a secret. Like whose secret are we supposed to share with you? Okay. Me and you're in a couple. Me and you're a couple.
Hmm.
Whose secrets am I supposed to share with you?
It's personal things, like, things such as things that they kept to themselves that they never really opened up about. Because I mean, that's another question I'm going to get on to, but that kind of ties into it also.
Because say, for instance, I'm using an example. Never happened. All right. Say a man had a say your male companion
Hmm.
had a how do I phrase this had a sexual encounter with another male, right?
Hmm.
In his mind, no one knew but him and that guy, right?
Right.
What if he told you, right?
Right.
You and him get in an argument one day. Well, that's why you was effing that man. What do you think
See,
that's gonna do for your relationship?
see, I'm not that type. I don't,
Everybody says
I'm,
that.
well,
Everybody says that.
I stick to my guns. I really don't. I'm not the
No,
type
listen.
of woman to throw things back up in people's face, especially when you told me that in confidence.
Everybody says that though. But when you get so mad, that's why I don't argue with people because you say things that you normally wouldn't say, and you can't take those things back. That's why I don't argue. I shut down, walk away before I argue with someone because I know I'm gonna try to say something to hurt you just to shut you up. That's why I don't argue. But yeah, secrets. Mm, that's it.
Let me
That's it.
let me say a little bit.
That
When it comes to sharing secrets, right? That is something that has been a question that I think every woman asked. So how does it benefit? My question to you is, how does it benefit the man by sharing secrets with his significant other? Does that benefit him to share secrets with you?
If we're in a committed relationship, I feel like if anything, we should be open and honest about certain things. Well, in a sense, especially if we're talking long term at that. Um, the benefit part is that, you can trust me.
But he won't know that he can trust you by telling you something. That doesn't. It's like the risk really outweighs the reward, right? Because if you all are together, are you saying you won't be in a committed relationship with him if he doesn't share his private family business?
No, not at all, because of course, family business is a touchy subject. Now, if you do openly tell me those things, then, I will listen to you, tell me those things. But me personally, on family business, that is something I just don't get into, because I'm not a part of his family, especially if we're not married and if it doesn't have anything to do with me. But just the benefit part was just, just having that open line of communication where, if you feel like, something is weighing on you and it's something that you've been holding on to, at least you can know that you have, like, at least me, or the woman that you know
I get
are
what you're
with.
saying, and
Yeah.
you're asking the question from an emotional lens. Some men are logical, right? And
Right.
in this case, I'm gonna just like use an anecdotal situation and just speak for myself. I'm not speaking for men, just for me personally. Like I have things that go on, right? But logically, if you cannot help me solve those problems, why am I sharing it with you? Another thing is you have your own problems. Why am I burdening you with mine? I know if we're together, we're a couple, hey, we can work things out. But my problems might be, hey, I might have a sister that's on drugs. You aren't going to help me with that, right? And depending on where we are in our relationship, you probably have never met my sister or don't know her. And I'm just speaking hypothetically. I could have a cousin that's on drugs. I could have a niece that's suicidal. And these are things that I have to work out myself or with my family. Sharing that with you benefits me in no way and it could harm them. And I know you said you don't share information, and that is good. But a lot of people say those things, and as soon as they get upset with a person, as soon as that relationship ends, everything comes out. Oh, his auntie was gay. Oh, his uncle, such and such. Yeah, his cousin, that's not even such and such's child. Or all of these so called secrets that took place while that man was pillow talking all comes out. And this has happened so many times before me, it'll happen after me. So a lot of men just choose not to even uh, take that adventure, right? It's like, you know what? Why don't we talk about us and what we have going on and leave those moments out? If it's something at work, oh man, I had such and such a day, I had a bad day, or I'm in school and this class was challenging, that's enough. He's opening up, he's sharing his vulnerabilities. But it's like women want to know the deepest secrets, and it benefits the man in no way at all. And it shows her that, oh, he trusts me, or this is something that they're assuming he does with me and only me. But outside of that, there is no benefit to a man doing that at all. And I apologize for ending it that bluntly, but any other questions that you have?
Uh-oh.
And again, I want to thank you. You have some really, really, really great questions, right? I
Yeah.
want to ask the
Yes,
audience,
yes.
how do you all like these questions?
I just, I just, uh-oh, no caller.
This is our amazing co-host, Tavana. Oh, can you type your other question in also?
Hi everybody, how y'all doing?
Hello, hello. I told them to mute themselves when they aren't speaking, so we
Okay.
have a.
Hey, Sister
Hello.
T. Hey, Sister T.
Hey.
That's a
Hello.
hot topic right there. Our guest, Tavana, um, went back a couple of weeks, and she wanted to know why is it so hard for men to share secrets, and her other question was why is it so hard for men to commit, in relationships. So that is what we have been discussing so far.
Okay, sounds good. So we kind of gonna double back,
Excuse
circle the
me.
block.
Hold on one second. Excuse me,
Yes,
guest. What's your name again?
My name's
Ma'am, what's your
Tisha. Tisha.
Tisha.
Mm-hmm.
Tisha. Okay. Savannah is a woman,
Yes.
but she has a great male perspective, a great logical perspective on a lot of questions. So she's like that eight ball.
Thank you.
that is a great way to describe her. I just say she like a think like a dude, but
And that's not true. I think
No,
like
no.
a
She's
human.
logical.
she's
She's
very
Yes.
logical.
logical.
She's very and
Very
Tisha,
logical,
yeah,
very
very logical.
analytical, very unemotional in how I think on
Our
certain
first
things. I'll say that.
our first conversation, she cussed me out.
Oh,
Not even
Oh
knowing my
wow.
name, she cussed me out.
Oh
oh my
wow.
God. Are we live? Why would you
Oh,
say
we lied.
that?
But it built our bond.
Oh
She
my
shut me up
goodness.
for like 3 seconds. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, tend to not live in their authenticity, right? And I'm just not one of those people. Like I am very comfortable in my skin. I'm very comfortable with who and what I am, and that's going to be it. Like I'm not going to down that, damper that, dim that, you know what I mean, for anything or anyone. So that's just kind of what you get.
Let me elaborate back on the question again about this sharing secrets. So, this past 2 weeks, I've been taking a class for my job, taking a 6 week class, but the first 2 weeks just ended today and I had to take an exam or whatever. So I was stressed out with that, studying class all day. Along with that, some issues with, how I put it, going through some issues with the mothers of my children. So my friend, so she called me. She like, oh, you feel down, you sound down, blah 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 blah. Maybe I can help us now. You can help me with. Well, what is it? I said, you can't help me. One, you can't help me with the class, and you can't help me with the issues I got with the mothers of my kids. So it's like, why am I going to tell you? So you can bring it back up later when I'm done with it. If I want to talk to you about it, I'll tell you. But if I don't want to, you shouldn't try to push the issue. And it's not really secrets. It's just certain things like men have every conversation. I don't feel is made to be with your mate. Like certain things, like I can talk to Coach Sean about that I wouldn't talk to my significant other if I had one. I wouldn't speak to her about because she probably can't see. She won't kind of like black and white. White people, the average white person, can't empathize with what a black person goes through on a daily basis. They go, "Oh, I know how you feel." No, you don't. You would never know how it feels to be black. So that's kind of like similar.
Well, I think Tank, when we talked about this the first go round, so who's the caller that asked that
Miss
double
Tisha,
that
that was Tisha.
It's me.
Tisha.
Yes, ma'am.
Tisha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So Tisha, I think what was said in the prior sessions was that there is a level of like Damon said, distrust because many women tend to compartmentalize information that they get from their men. They will take
Right.
that and they will store it. And then they're opportunistic with it. When it serves them, they will throw it back up in his face. And that
Right.
is
Just use it as
awful to do.
ammunition.
Correct. And that is awful to do. And
Right.
unfortunately, many men, once that has happened to them 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 11 times, when a woman, a real woman, comes along who will not do that to them, it's kind of unfortunate for her, right? Because history has taught them not to do that, right? And it's very hard to trust a new person once you've been bitten a bunch of times. Like if you had 4 dogs and you got bit by each one of your dogs, would you go buy another dog? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? Because even though this is a different dog, you're probably thinking, them other 4 dogs bit me. And so that's kind of what the guys have to deal with. Is that trauma from having made themselves available and vulnerable, and then that vulnerability being tossed back at them. And I think what the next female unfortunately has to try to sift through is proving herself that she is not like the others. Is that right? No, it's not. Because everybody should get a clean slate. But a lot of people, men and women, don't know how to heal well enough to be able to give a clean slate.
The risk outweighs the reward, so no clean slate
Right.
will be given.
Right. And that's exactly right. And so there's now a frustration, right, that is looming over this new relationship, right? Because the man has the risk versus reward. The woman is getting frustrated because why won't you let me in? And nobody's willing to break and budge. So what do you do?
That is correct. Because I feel like I've always played the I'm trying to mend things because of course certain situation where they had past experiences where women have since bit them or done some shicey things to them because of I confided in you, but now I'm going to use the information against you. And I've always tried to let them know, hey, well, I'm not them, not any other people that you ever dealt with. I'm just here to help. Especially if I know that there's some weird resources that I can have or I do have, to help you. But it is tough when you're trying to deal with, certain men and, they have like traumatic experiences from certain women.
And you know the problem with that is, at the end of the day, you are a woman. And if he's experienced that from a woman, I know that you all are different. And like Tavana says, you deserve a clean slate. But who wants to take that risk again? You know, um, and
But
go ahead.
Koshan, women do it all the time,
I was
right?
just about to
Women,
say you come
yeah,
we thinking
yeah,
alike. So I
yeah.
spoke with one of my best friends, right? And I actually commended her on this because she's been married and divorced, but any relationship that she's been in, she goes all out 100% in love. My boo, pictures, posting, whatever. She's like, I don't care if someone thinks I'm going to look like a dummy. And I followed her logic. Her logic is this: I can take the paranoid approach and be a pessimist and live in fear and have this inside of me every single day. Or I can just let my past go and be in love. And if things don't work out, I'm only hurt once. If I'm holding on to past hurt, I'm hurt every single day. And I'm not 100% committed to my relationship. And I commend her for that. And it's easy for women to do. Um, I agree with you all 100%.
I'm not sure if it's easier, and I think we make the mistake of believing that one thing is easier for a man versus easier for a woman, or I don't believe that that's true. I
Well, you
think
just
it
do it
is the
more.
person.
Yeah, women
It
just do it
well, it's the
more
but it's
consistently than men.
also a very individual
Thing,
thing, right?
right?
Because it really depends on that man and that woman. It's not a man woman thing, because you could have man A who is of the mindset, I'm not doing that. I've been hurt too many times, burn me once. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it. But then you can have man B, who is of the different mindset, that clean slate. She doesn't deserve it. She didn't do it. It wasn't her fault. I'm going in. And you can have women that are in the same way. Nope, this one hurt me. This one did that. So the next one can't get nothing because I ain't getting hurt no more. And then you have clean slate women. So it really is a very personal decision about how you choose to move through relationships. And like what you said, I guarantee your friend that you were talking about, she sounds a lot like me, because I am just like that. It's like, all right, I'm done with that one. That's done. Like I'm done. That's over. Like it's fine. Next, you know what I mean? And it's a clean slate. And if that one doesn't work, okay, next, it's another clean slate. Because at the end of the day, if what I want is companionship, or if what I want is a relationship that looks a certain way, you find out quick. And what you should be doing is seeing the signs earlier every time, right? Like if I start talking to someone and in the conversation is weird. I'm like, thank you. Like we ain't even I don't even need to go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes a lot of people will just be like, oh, I'll ignore that. Or, don't stop ignoring that kind of stuff. Right. And then you don't drag it out. And I think sometimes dragging it out is more issue. You saw all the signs, the red flags were there. You just kept passing them. So, and what was Keisha's other
I'm sorry. That was good. That was good. What you said was
what
good.
was
Very good,
her
Dad. Tisha, go ahead, Tisha.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What were you about to
Um,
say?
I forgot. I was about to say, I was tuned into what she was saying, so I got sidetracked on what I was gonna ask. But I was very much so listening. But I do agree with her because, in a sense, I've went through certain situations where I've like, okay, well, next, just like you said, it is what it is. But then I also have like certain friends that like tend to hang on to certain things, and then if I'm seeing the red flags and I'm not even in a relationship, or if you're telling me about it, then there's some conversation that need to be had. But I definitely agree with what you said, Miss Savannah.
thank you.
No problem.
So, Coach, I know I jumped on a little late. So, we're still in the vein of, are we still in the emotional,
Emotionally available
what was it?
man. Yeah, yeah.
Available. Yeah,
Being
right.
emotionally available. And Tisha, so a little backstory here. I had to go travel out of town for a professional development, and I have my Omega travel bag, and of course, everybody recognized the wholesome cues when we travel. And
Ah, okay.
and and Tisha's mother, um, God bless, she um, you know, befriended some and introduced her daughter and let her know that hey, these are some people that will look out for you, good friends of mine, and that's how we started conversing. And I told her about the podcast, but she actually had some questions, and we ironically we were talking about men being emotionally available, and I was like, wait, save all of this. I need you to be a caller on our podcast. And she started writing questions. I think she had like a whole notebook. She had a page filled with questions that so I told her we can pace ourselves and give us the questions that she has about men being emotionally available. And that is why she was like, why is it so hard for men to share? Secrets was one, but Tisha, if you have some other questions, please give them to us. And Nicole, I see you here listening. If you have questions for us, please, if you don't want to speak, you can type them in.
Okay, so
No,
emotionally available. I apologize. Somebody was talking. Miss Nikki, go ahead. I'm still trying to think of my question.
Nicole, you have the floor. We're talking about emotionally unavailable men. Is that fact or fiction? And what are your questions when it comes to that, men being emotionally available or emotionally unavailable?
this one is going to bite you. So I feel for men's, um, that's why they share secrets because if they share something with you, women's being some of us, women's, we hold it. And soon as we get the opportunity to lash, everything is revealed. And nobody wants to deal with that, whether they're female or male.
I agree. I agree. And that's what we alluded to before about just not wanting to experience it. Once you've experienced it, I think that experience itself is so traumatic because when you share secrets, it's a secret. The person that shared it with you probably shared it under the belief that that would not happen. And I've seen that in friendships, you know. I've seen it in marriages when people share things with others and then people start exposing it. So like I said, the risk really outweighs the reward. Side note right quick, um Tavana and anyone else that is interested, I've joined in a group and I'm Tank. I want to bring you in on this. We've we're starting a chapter um, called All Pro Dads. It's an organization that is co-sponsored by Tony Dungy, and it's very good. It has helped me a lot, and it deals with men being emotionally available and working with male communication, but not particularly with a significant other only. The primary focus is men dealing with their children and youth in their community. So they provide a list of great conversation starters. Um, there's something called lunchbox memos. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with it. Some people have been, but it was new to me. And it's just like a lot of motivating uh, things to put in your kids' lunchbox. So when they get to work, I mean, when they get to school the next day and they open their lunch boxes, they can read these nice messages about how important they are to you, how much you love them, how you look forward to them coming home, and the conversation starters. They have them for couples and relationships, and also to have with your children when they come in. What was the best part of their day? Who made you laugh today? Um, what do you like about being in the sixth grade? You know, if you could change something about today, what would it be? Just some really good conversation starters that gets the kids engaged and it creates the dialogue between men and their loved ones, and that's friends, family, and significant other. So that's just where I'm headed next. And I would like you all to support us in this. Let me take my break and get back to you ladies with your questions. All right.
All right, Tisha, you can go ahead and pose your next question.
Okay, so my next one, because I know I've had my best friend actually, she's dealing with a guy that has little certain issues in regards to certain things. But
You have to
she
share these
feels
issues
as
if you want a good answer.
yeah, I'm about to ask the question. So does do men uh react to certain women a certain way by how they were treated by their mother?
Ooh, go ahead, Coach Sean.
I will say from personal experience, yes. I also we talk about this. A lot of guys, friends, we talk about things like this, right? Like how did our moms impact the way we, our relationships, and being honest, right? As you grow older and you see things, you learn things that, hey, you know what, my mom could have done XYZ, but my mom was very, very, very respectful of me and my siblings, right? So there were no men coming around. Once my parents were divorced, so there was never a time where a guy came to my grandparents' house to see my mom. If she dated someone, like we weren't exposed to anyone else, um, and the way she handled things created an expectation for me. So I always felt like, and my mom was a loving mom. She struggled a lot being a single mother of three children, working hard. She moved us to Boston, for a better life. That whole story, she worked a full time job. She house sat for a family and took care of their mother for extra money, and that became my expectation of what a mother would be. What a spouse would be, right? So I think that, and in contrast, I have friends that have disclosed this with me. They saw their mom sleep with men when bills were due. They saw their mom sleep with men when it was time to buy Christmas gifts or back to school clothing. So they devalued women, or they felt like the primary role of women in relationships involved sex. So I will say that it does affect how we treat women. It also affects our expectations of women, and I don't think that we have to remain that way, because I've learned a lot from just engaging with our guests, talking to our co-hosts. I've learned a lot, right? So I think that men can change, but initially I think that finding out what his relationship with his mother was like, or the women close to him, if he was raised by auntie, grandmother, sister, whatever, finding out what that relationship was like, will tell you a lot about that man or men in general. Tank, what do you have to say?
I agree. Question: yes, the relationship with a male and his mother does have play a role. I'm just gonna speak for myself. Like, me and my mom we had a pretty good relationship growing up. But then, up until the point I got married, and when I got married, our relationship changed because now you're no longer the number one woman in my life. I have a wife now. I have kids, I have family, other obligations, and that was a lot for her to deal with. And then seeing her and my father arguing for the last 42 years, that's why to this day I don't argue in relationship. Because in a relationship, I don't argue. And once I feel like we got to argue, I'm done. Not I'm done, but I'm not going to engage in an argument with you. So that's the role, the relationship I had with my mother growing up played in decisions I make today, just to keep it brief.
So, Tank, a probing follow up question for you. Were your parents married and living in the house together the whole time?
Yeah, still. Yeah.
Okay. So that it's sounding like even though your that was the case, sometimes a lot of moms make their children their husband,
Yeah.
right? And when that happens and that child goes off and gets married, it's problematic because you done
But
took my husband.
so it wasn't to that extent, I can honestly say. But it's just the fact of just like small things that she done. Like when I was single, oh, can you do X, Y, Z for me? Can you do X, Y, Z? Oh, cool, no problem. But when I got married, I can't do these things no more.
Right, but she had a
So
whole husband, so she shouldn't need you to do
exactly.
that. So in a sense, yeah, even a little, even if you into that role, even a little, it's going to show up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
mothers do it with their sons. Um, boys do it with their mom, and this is, I think, why it's very important to have both. If one is missing, there's always going to be a deficit. If there's one parent missing, there's going to be a deficit. Doesn't matter, right? Because children need the balance of both. So
Mm-hmm.
if that doesn't happen, there's going to be a deficit, and it's going to make it very hard when they enter into relationships. So if you have, like Coach Sean said, men who what most people would call a mama's boy, it's going to be very hard for him to have a wife because he's not going to know how not to be his mama's husband.
Right.
You
And
right?
that
And
you're
so
correct.
and then on the flip side, there are a lot of females who, if they have this really, really close relationship with their dad, it's hard for them to break away and let their husband be their husband. They just want to keep running back to daddy. You know what I'm saying? So, and if the parent does not have the wherewithal to cut the string and actually enables that bad behavior, it's going to make it very hard for the spouse.
I agree. I agree 100%. That's something else
And,
that I had to learn
and
over
I'm
time.
gonna step away
Go
for a
ahead.
few minutes.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
But that is something that I learned over time and through various relationships. I was a mama's boy. Like all out mama's boy. I'm talking about I was grown and I would go and just lay in the bed with my mom and she'd clean my ears and pop pimples on my face, and always hugs, kisses. Um, and I could not get enough of being with my mom. She would cook anything that I wanted, but she treated my son the same way. And and I noticed that the relationships that worked were only with women um, that kind of had characteristics of my mom. And of course, it was a must that you got along with my mom. Um, so for years, if a woman for some reason didn't want to go with me to my mom's house and have dinner, or if I wasn't available and I was like, hey, I need you to take my mom somewhere, or can you do XYZ, that was an automatic deal breaker. And as I got older, I had to get to the point where I would tell my mom, hey, look, this is who I want to be with. I need you to start making some accommodations for them, and that came with time. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying a lot. And I know I've seen women that look for their dad in men, you know, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's what they're accustomed to, and especially when you have great qualities like Tavana, and I'm speaking to you because through years of social media, it feels like I know your dad, and this is a supportive guy.
Everyone knows my dad. Yeah.
Everyone, yeah, that's like our Facebook uncle. So here's a Marine. He's supportive. Like I've seen pictures where your kid is doing something and your dad's right there. You know what I'm saying? That alone says a lot that he's willing to travel and be there, be that supportive person. And being a Marine for all those years shows he's a hard worker. He's been a provider, you know, but you and your siblings through college and whatnot. And I'm not getting into details or specifics about tuition. I'm just saying, providing that foundation, it says a lot. So if that is what you're looking for in a man, that's not asking too much. And a guy shouldn't feel offended by that because that is what you've been exposed to. He created your expectations of a man, a husband, a provider, and a protector. So I completely understand that.
Well, I think that's everybody, right? So if a child is born and there is a mom and a dad, everything that we know, and I've said this so many times, everything that you know right now is because of something you've been taught. There's nothing that you know that you weren't taught. So, and that teaching starts the moment you exit your mother's body. Those lessons begin, right? They actually start while you're in your mother's bodies because it's been proven that babies can feel and hear, and you know what I'm saying. So they're learning and they're knowing and they're feeling inside of the mom. And so once that baby comes out and these things are starting to be seen, and a lot of it is unconscious. It's what the child is seeing, it's what the child is witnessing. It's not always what they say. So if you have this, like Coach Sean said, if this is what you see and this is what you're indirectly being taught, that is what you're going to look for, right? And this is what is going to be attracted to you. I think I use my son as an example. I have three sons. And so my sons, all the girls that they've have ever met have characteristics of me. They're not girls that, pile tons of makeup on their face and weave halfway down their back and all they butt and boobs hanging out. These are not the girls that my sons deal with because that's not what they saw. That's not what a woman is supposed to be. If you're not going to cook and talk and communicate well, and they don't want no parts of it, right? And so it's just this is something that it is so in the scheme of what we're talking about, and that would teach us question. It is absolutely, absolutely. You have to understand that relationship. People jump into relationships with people, never meet the person's family, never. Why? How? Because if you don't know those things, then you have no idea what you're dealing with. And you have to know what you're dealing with. You have to meet the parents. You have to meet the uncles, the cousins, because everybody that had a hand in raising that man or that woman, you're going to be able to understand why he or she is the
Where he
way that
is
they are.
correct. I have a question, Tawana. Do you think that your father was emotionally available?
Um, so again, my dad was a Marine, so my house was very regimented. My mother was, and I tell people, I use the example all the time. Like I grew up in the Cosby house, right? That's the house that I grew up in. Like you picture the Cosby Show,
Mm-hmm.
that is it. Like my mom, even to me, looks like Felicia
Yeah.
Rashad a little
Right.
bit,
Right.
right? So it was my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like we had cookies and milk when we came home off the bus. Like it was extremely TV like in my house. My dad was the provider. He worked. My mom was like, we did something bad. It was when your daddy get home, you gonna get a beating. Because my mom did not. I can remember a, on one hand the number of times I got a spanking from my mom. My dad was the disciplinarian, and then my mom came in and gave the hugs and kisses, and you know what I'm saying. But in terms of my dad being emotionally available, still absolutely. My dad told us he loved us every day. My dad hugged and kissed us every day. My dad, like it wasn't like, oh, my dad don't love me. No, we didn't feel that at all. Like he was definitely both. There was a nurturing side to him. We played with him. We went on trips, and it was, you know what I'm saying? It was very but our structure was dad is the head. Everything goes through dad. We could not go ask my mom or something and she just give us an answer. It was me and daddy gonna talk about it and I'll come back and talk to you. Or if we got in trouble and we got a punishment, we could say, I don't think that's a fair punishment. Can we talk about it? Right?
Mm.
So that's the household I grew up in. So that's why even now to this day, people are like, oh my God, you're so outspoken. Like I've been being described as outspoken since I was probably 5 because you could not tell me anything and expect me not to challenge it because I was allowed to challenge it at home.
At home, okay.
And
How'd
and
that
my
impact you at
teachers,
school? Oh,
oh,
you
my
read where I was
teachers,
going.
absolutely, my teachers would call my parents, and my parents would be like, "And
Right,
did you
right.
answer her question?" No, if she has a valid question, because again, my parents are from New Jersey. I was born in New York, and we grew up. I grew up in the South, so there was a different thing,
Mm.
right? Like I used to get in trouble at school because my teachers wanted me to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and my mom was like,
Oh, you
absolutely
read
not.
my mind.
Absolutely not.
You
My
took my
parents were like, absolutely not. If she said, like, I got called to the principal's office because I wouldn't say yes, ma'am. And when they called my mom came down there and spit hellfire because she was just like, are you out of your mind? Like, she doesn't have to say yes, ma'am to you. What did she say? Well, she said yes. And my mom said, so what's the problem? If she didn't say yeah or yep, now if I would have said yeah or yep, I would have got my face slapped off in there. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
yes was enough. No was enough. That ma'am stuff, we didn't that wasn't something that we were
So,
taught
Nikki,
to do.
if you're listening, this is an ongoing a running joke with me and my classmates, right? And I think the timing, I was in Boston from the end of elementary into middle school, and I keep explaining that when you're in a large city where you literally between the subways and just your daily commute, you can see over 100,000 people a day, right? You're not going to sit there and say hello, good morning, good evening, good morning, good morning, good morning, and just say
Absolutely
no.
not.
You're never going to do that.
I can walk in a room and not even speak, and it doesn't
And
bother
not
me.
speak. And it's right, right. That's how
And it's
it is.
not rude to me, but
It is
that's
not.
the way, yeah, we
And when
grew up.
you're in a melting pot, like Boston was a true melting pot, 50% of the people probably don't even speak English when you enter a certain space. So not speaking it was not uncommon. So I didn't like doing that, and it's a challenge now because I'm a school administrator, and a lot of the teachers they will write the students up and they want me to suspend them, saying they were rude and disrespectful. So I'm like, okay, what happened? um, she said such and such to me, and the student is like, all I did was ask a question. So I'm at a crossroads with my educators trying to understand that, hey, look, I understand your policies and procedures were in place before I got here, but as an academic leader, my emphasis is on critical thinking over compliance, because having kids saying yes ma'am, yes sir, and sitting quietly looks good, but what good is that when the kids think 4 times 4 is purple? We need learning to take place, and I need kids that are going to be up and actively engaged. And how do you become a leader when all you're taught is compliance, right? So are we really training leaders, or are we training
Well, no,
um
we're not training leaders. See, people, a lot of my parents did not look at their children as beneath them. They looked at us as small humans, right? Like
right.
small humans. Like we had feelings, we had emotions. People tend to look at their children and "Oh, you do what I tell you to do." No, 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 no. This is a whole human being who has thoughts and feelings, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and that are different than yours because even though they came out of you, they still are going to grow up and be their
Be their
own
own, right.
person. My brother and my sister and I couldn't be more different. And we grew up in the same house with the same mama and daddy because
Mm.
at the end of the day, this is what it is, right? And this is what happens. I mean, I'm sure every family has the same thing, right? There's always that one or two that's quote unquote different. If the approach that you have to your children is do as I say and not as I do, or all these other weird things, instead of treating them like human beings who have brains and hearts. This is where it goes wrong, right? It from there, like your child, it should. And again, I think it's cultural sometimes, definitely cultural. We were able to express ourselves because we had parents like that, but then I had friends who they couldn't even look at their mama, like, you know what I'm saying, like it was almost like, you looking at me crazy, what? No, I'm just look, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you, they didn't even feel comfortable to look at their parents in the eye, you know what I'm saying, which was strange because my parents were like, you better look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. You better, you know what I'm saying,
But see, you
shake a
have
man's
also,
hand and
because you have a lot of confidence, right?
hmm
And you can communicate with people in different spaces. Like you can communicate with children, you can communicate with your peers, adults, and I'm sure being a business owner, you find yourself communicating with a ton of people, but
well,
you're
this is what we
comfortable
were
doing
talking
that.
about in the first series, right? And now I'm not sure if Nikki and Tisha went back and heard that communication piece, right? If you don't know, this is, and I said it back then, and I'm gonna say it again. If you take a child's voice early, it is going to be hard for them to recover.
That is the
And
truth.
in our neighborhoods and in our households, we are snatching these babies' voice at 1 and 2 years old, especially our black boys, by telling them they can't feel and telling them to suck it up and telling them to be a man. Or at 1 and 2, let that baby cry. His knee hurt. Let him cry. That's normal. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you're
Right.
snatching that baby's voice away. And then when he turns 16 and wants and doesn't know how to treat a little girl when he takes her to the prom, he gets in trouble. Or when he's 40 and can't have a conversation with his wife, it's a problem. But at 1 and 2, you told him to act like that.
Hmm.
And you never retrained it. You never retrained it. So, and then back, coming full circle, you're right back to these emotionally unavailable men because
Right.
they were taught to be that way from little children, and nobody ever retrained that thought.
Yeah, and I have two boys myself as a single mother. I've done it 10 years by myself. My oldest will be 11 come August. But I've always felt that as a child, at least, if you feel some type of way or if there's something weighing on your heart, let's talk about it, like I tell my two boys, like I said, they're only 10 and 7. Um, and my youngest son, he has sensory, so we're still getting into the thing where trying to get him to express himself because he doesn't really talk as much when it comes to expressing his feelings, which is what we found out from his occupational and speech therapist, that that is a part of sensory, but not being able to process things a certain way. But I do feel as if, if you don't leave that open line of communication with your child at a young age, that can definitely cause problems growing up.
I agree. I agree, and I've seen it. I've seen that a lot. So
Well,
I
I
do.
want to chime in.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Nikki. I have a 30-year-old son, 28-year-old daughter, and I was a single mom. Um, my dad left when I was 3, and we have a great relationship. Even though he wasn't in the house, he did what he needed to do. He just wasn't there because whatever situation happened, between him and mom. But as far as my son, Coach Sean knows. I mean, like, we can actually sit down like brothers and sisters. He respects women. When he meets a woman, he hugs and he greets them. And his daddy was never around. My daughters always say he's a mama's boy, but he's not a mama's boy. He just have respect for his mom. And he has 2 girls, and I feel like he's going to be a great, father, um, to his girls. But going back, I allowed them, when they were coming up, come and talk to me, because the streets is going to tell you something totally different. So I love the fact about an open line of communicating 1 years old, if you're going to cry, you can cry. You don't have to suck nothing up. Kids need to be kids. When they get an adult, they should already been through what they need to go through as a child, and they know better.
I I
That's just my input on it.
I agree. And Nikki, I want to piggyback on what you said. Um, her son, I love that's my nephew. Very, very, very respectful young man. Charming, very charming guy, and he is a in a good way. He is a mama's boy because he loves his mother. He communicates with his mother very well, and he puts people first. He's selfless, and I admire that about him. Every time he talks to his mom, he never burdens her with issues. He always wants to know how she's doing, what can he do to help, and that is a great quality in him. And I would like some feedback on this because I always talk to Nikki, and I talk to other um, women. Tavana, you fall in this category that have children with the opposite sex. And a friend of mine got angry with me and cussed me up and didn't talk to me for weeks because I told her that she coddled her son but raised her daughter. And I'm like, your son is actually older. And I observe her calling him, checking on him. What did he eat? Wanting to meet every girl that he encounters. I'm like, he's in college. Let him live. And her daughter, on the other hand, is like, she's preparing her daughter at 13 to be an adult, to be self sufficient. And I always wondered, like, what drives that for the mothers that do show bias in the way they raise their children. What is the driving factor in that?
I think that I see it in my relationship with my kids. I think as mothers, we are harder on our daughters because of our past traumas. And you always want to try to make sure and you want to protect your kids from certain things. So if you're a mom and you have dealt with things like abuse or um, molestation or heartbreaks or whatever, as a mom, when you have a daughter, your instinct kicks in to protect her from all of that,
Yes.
right? Um, and so you tend to be harder on your daughter because not out of being mean, but out of fear, because 9 times out of 10, if there's an issue, the root of it is fear. I don't care what it is rooted in fear. And so out of that fear, you start to react to her in a certain way because there's a protective factor that starts to drive you um, and take over. And then because with your son, you not the same fear. So you may end up, it may look like you have a better relationship with your son than you do with your daughter because while you're protecting your daughter from XYZ, you don't have these fears. And so you don't have to have these kind of things with your son. So I think that it's just a thing that you have to try to work through. And once you notice it, you have to try to fix it. And with mothers and daughters, in my opinion, once your daughter gets to a certain age, there needs to be a sit down with your daughter because the most important thing I think a mother can do for her daughter is to let her understand her story. Your daughter has to understand what you've been through as a woman once she gets to a certain age because she needs to understand that you can be sympathetic and empathetic to what she may be going through. Because when we look at our parents, we look at a lot of people don't ever get to the point where they look at their parents as a human being. They see them as mom and dad. But at some point, once you're an adult, you have to look at your parents and say, this is a grown woman over here. This is a grown man over here, right? Like I know I was in my 20s before I realized that's my mom and dad, but that was her husband. That was his wife. And that ain't have nothing to do with them being my mom and dad. right?
Right, right.
And so and if you don't ever get to that reality, you will have your parents on this exalted mountain your entire life, which will never give you the opportunity to see them. And so as
In a
parents,
right, in
you
a
have
different
to,
light.
that's
Okay.
right, because your relationship with your children should have ebbs and flows, right? As a child, you should be training them and guiding them and helping them through life. Teenage years, you should be still guiding them, giving them some direction. Young adulthood, you should be loosening the grip, letting them fall a couple times, make some mistakes. And then when they get into their late 20s, early 30s, somewhere in there, you should actually start having a friendship with your child. You and your child should actually be able to talk. Y'all should be able to communicate. Y'all should be able to laugh and giggle and, drink some wine or smoke a cigar. You know what I'm saying? The relationship should develop with your children. And there's still that healthy respect and fear, because a lot of times that's missing. Like I'm 44 and I still, my daddy will be like, I know you didn't post that on Facebook. Delete, right? Because because I'm not about to play with Edward. I don't care how old I am, and I ain't about to play with Bonnie, because at the end of the day, I am still their child. I am grown and somebody's mama and somebody's wife
Right,
and somebody's
right.
boss and somebody that don't matter. When they speak,
Yeah, and that's
it's it,
respect. And that
right?
you're still their
Right.
child.
Right. But I also have the type of relationship with my parents. People be like, oh my God, I know you did not like my dad will call me, he'd be like, where you going? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to my wax appointment. What? You tell your daddy that? Yeah. Like it's like it, you know what I'm saying? Because I have that type of I always have
Relationship. Nikki and
had
I
that
can share some
relationship.
stories with you
I
about
can my daddy know it
that.
way too much than any daddy. He'd be like, I don't really think that I really needed to know that, but okay.
I
You know
feel
what
I
I'm
feel
saying?
as if I didn't get to, in a sense, kind of do that with my, well, in a sense, well, not my dad, because my dad hasn't been in my life, because I don't even know that man. But my relationship with my mother father relationship came just strictly from my mother. But my mom passed away back in 2016, and then my grandmother passed away in 2020. So I feel like the only relationship I really have like that, where I can just be open and blunt, would be with my aunt, which is my grandmother's sister. And I know I keep it respectful as well, because I don't try to curse or say certain words that might slip out, because they are of the cloth in a sense. Not in the cloth, but it's just, they're saved and whatnot. But I don't know. I just feel like, some of my friends, they're able to, they cuss and everything with their mom. And I look at them like, y'all cuss, that's okay.
Oh, I
Like,
have a good old
y'all
cussing
okay to
time with
do
my mom and my daddy. If I
that?
ain't cussing, my parents be like, "You all right?" Like I talk to my parents just like I talk to my friends. So, and my kids, same thing. Like my son came home from college with his roommate and his friend. He was like, "You talk to your mama about that? You tell your mama that, or you can say that in front of your mom?" Yeah. Like,
That's a good thing. That's positive, and I
yeah,
encourage that.
because at the end of the day, first of all, why if I cuss? They grown now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Ethan
Right.
can't cuss. He's 9. Like, no, you can't cuss yet. But when they got to be like middle school, I know you cussing at school. I
Yeah,
know you,
right.
when you. So, do
I,
I really expect for you to come home and curve your mouth? No, you ain't gonna do it. Now, even now, like I think they still kind of curve it a little bit, but even when they don't, it's like just having a general conversation. My daughter would come in, she'd be like, "Girl, this bitch at my job," and I'd be like, "What, girl?" Like,
what?
so yeah, and people
Excuse
be
me?
like,
Yeah,
"Oh my God."
I would have been picking my teeth up from off the floor.
No, 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 no.
Just
Because
'cause
again,
I was raised in the country.
I want them to always be, because listen, here's what I think, and this is, I think, what my parents really took away. If my children get into a situation, the last thing I want them to say is, "Oh my God, I don't want to call my mom."
Well, it was like
I
that
want
for
the
me and my
I
brother,
want the
but
first thing they say is, let me call my mom, right? Because there's
Mhm.
no fear of the judgment. There's no fear of I'm gonna get in trouble. It is my mom. I need help, and my mama gonna help me first, and I might get my ass beat later, but I'm calling my mama, right? You know what I'm saying? Because a
Right.
lot of people, a lot of kids don't have that comfortability with their parents, and so they avoid certain things with, and that's why they get into certain things because they feel like they can't talk to their parents. And that was something that I never wanted my kids to feel. Like I had my daughter at 20 and my dad was the first person I told. Literally. Like it was like, got something to tell you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And he was not mad. He was not. My mama on the other hand, she was a little mad, you know what I'm saying? But but who else I'm gonna tell? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
They music because I felt as if I was gonna get my ass cut in a sense because I was the humble, quiet, and a good girl, but I was sneaky, and that's how I ended up with my oldest son at 18 years old. Um, when she found out, crazy story, just to keep it short and sweet. We were at our house one day, and it was just me, her, and my younger brother. And I said, "Mom, why my stomach moving like this?" She didn't say not one word to me. She just got up, grabbed her purse and her keys, and got in her truck and left the house. I said, "Well, I know I had asked her a question." Came back. She said, my mom used to call me Sissy because me and my mom was close, super close, God rest her soul. Um, but she told me, she said, "Hey, come here real quick, Sissy." I said, "Mm-hmm." And she said, "Close the door." Because I was still feeling some type of way because I asked you a question about my stomach and I didn't know what was wrong with it. And I had just turned 18 back in January at the time, still in high school. And she said, "Now here, take this." I was like, "Man," I was like, "I'm not pregnant." To that test, whole different outcome. I said, "Oh, sweet Jesus." Um, but she didn't cuss me out or anything or nothing like that. Even when it came to telling my grandmother said, "Well, I was wondering why I was at the baby, looking at the baby clothes and stuff like that when she was in Florida." And then she was like, "Of course, old folks they'll say, oh, I had a dream about fish, but didn't say nothing." And my mom was like, "Well, that's it. You ain't got nothing to say to her." I was like, "Well, I mean, I guess."
You have to start
But
preparing for the next step now because once you
right, because
realize that,
it's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing really that can be done at this point. And then when it came to find out how far along I was, we thinking my due date was going to be in November. But came May, I found out I was 22 weeks and 3 days. So
oh
my
wow,
due date ended up being September 3rd. So I still got to finish high school. I'm about to graduate June 1st. Then,
your
uh,
situation brought a question to
mhm,
me. I don't want to cut you off, but it brought a
mhm,
question to me because a part of what I talked about, with this whole line of communication, right, um, is step parenting, right? And it was something that was brought to my
uh-oh.
attention that I never thought about. When we talk about step parenting, once you find out a mother has 9 months to prepare for this child, right? So the
Mhm.
mother has her child from the beginning. And I want to know when we talk about communicating with stepchildren because they need someone that's available to them. They need, love too, like any other child. But you have not prepared for that child. And if you're in a situation where you're with someone with children, what is your approach? Like, what are your boundaries? Of course, you will discuss that and things change. But going in, what are some things that you think should be established when communicating with stepchildren or dating someone that has stepchildren?
Um, I think with me, because personally, I feel as if being that I would be speaking with someone that has kids, and they're at least if anything, I'm hard on men that hey, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, because a lot of my friends
they deal with the women that, you know, hinder them from seeing their kids and everything. Granted, on my part, my both of my kids, their dad, he's really like not really in their life. He hadn't spoken to them since my youngest son's birthday back in December. But I just say, well, look, I've been doing this by myself. But when it comes to speaking about boundaries, I always make it known, hey, look, if we're gonna be together, you need to make sure, you know, you're doing what is needed, especially when it comes to these kids, because these kids didn't ask to be here. Make sure, you know, it's a, you know, if the woman is being confrontational, hey, don't engage. Just say, hey, look, what is you know, baby need? What is something that's upcoming? I always say try to be active. That's something I always say, that especially when it comes to that boundary, you must be active in your child's life, because that's like a, in a sense, a deal breaker for me, because me being a woman and a single mother at that, you're not in your kid's life and you're choosing not to be, that's a problem for me, because the child didn't do anything to you. So don't take it out on the child because the mother is the problem. But that's my boundary. Make sure you're active in your kid's life, child or children. Make sure you're active in their life, so that way they know, hey, I don't have to worry about, you know, oh, well, my dad's never been there. Because people do pick on the kids when they get older and say, hey, well, look, my daddy this, my daddy that, your daddy was never there. But I always let them know, look, make sure you're active in the kids' life, especially like when they're young, starting out young. Make sure you're there for everything. So you have to be active, especially dealing with me, because I don't tolerate that.
Well, my take on that is you're not about to play house with me and don't take care of your own house. It's just
Right,
that simple.
right,
So I'm never gonna let no man sit up here, take me and my kids to dinner while his child and the mama over there can't even eat. That ain't happening.
right,
So it is definitely a requirement. It is a requirement for me that me and the mother have conversations and get along and are civil. I'm not dealing with that either, because again, I have two older children who I did not birth, because I don't believe in step nothing. I don't believe in bonus nothing. People
right.
ask me, I have five children. So,
Mm,
period. I have five children and a grandbaby, and that's it. And that's it. I don't care
right.
where they came
That's
from
how
and
I
where I
am
birthed
too.
them. And so, it is very important for me that that blended um, family structure is there. Even like going through a divorce, my kids are still my kids. I still talk to them every day. Doesn't matter what me and their dad got going on. I don't care if he move on and have another wife somewhere. Guess you just gonna have two stepmamas, cause or whatever, cause these my kids now. Like, you
Right,
know what I'm saying?
right.
And
Yes.
so the new one can come, so you're gonna have to deal with both of their mamas, and you know what I'm saying. And so that's just the way it is for me. I will not deal with it. I don't take no excuses. I'm not gonna make no excuses, and because the court system works for everybody. So I don't believe in, oh, she won't let me see my kid. Nope. If you're not seeing your kid, that's your fault,
Amen.
because
Amen.
it takes a $25 fee to go down to the courthouse and ask for a contempt hearing to get the rights that you deserve as a father. So
Yep.
I don't play those games at all. It's a no go. It is a deal breaker. I don't care. It's a no go for me.
Yeah.
So, Koshan, what do guys, what do y'all think about the whole or quote unquote step parenting thing? Oh, and let me say this. So, when you're talking about boundaries, so when I met my husband, um, I did not let him come to my house, like, unless my kids weren't there. I did not, when he did start, I did start bringing him around. Of course, I did not leave him at the house with my kids. Once we got a little bit more comfortable, I can literally remember one time, and I swear, this is how I knew I probably wasn't all the way ready. He went to pick my daughter up from school, and there was a certain way that you could get back to the house from where we lived in Irmo. You can go. Usually, we just came straight down St. Andrews Road, and then came down Irmo Drive and went to the house. Well, there was a back way that you could go and come around, and When I tell you, I freaked out because he did not go the way that we normally went. And my first thought is he about to go take my daughter somewhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? And this was a real, this goes back to, like I was saying before, when we have these fears for our daughters that we don't
Yes.
have for our sons. And he was just like, he was appalled. You know what I'm saying? And my daughter was appalled that I even had this intense reaction. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's when I was like, okay, this was my test to see if I was ready, you know what I'm saying, to cross these type of boundaries. And it kind of let me know that they were ready, they were comfortable. I wasn't there yet, right, with my
Mhm.
daughter. Um, and so it took, some time for me to keep that, letting him go pick her up or letting him, you know what I'm saying? And then when she was like, Mom, I'm fine, like, you know what I'm saying? And then of course, it's fine. But I think you do have to feel it out because honestly, we don't ever know who anybody is, right? People can
Right.
put on a front for a very, very long time if they can. And that's the scary part. You just never know. It's almost like with your kids, you almost have to put them in danger to see what's going to happen. And that's a scary thing as a parent to deal with. Like, you don't know if your child's going to be allergic to peanut butter. So you got to let them eat peanut butter. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
that's scary. And so as a parent to have those boundaries and to take your time, I think you should do that. I know people that don't, that they just jump in and it's a different Uncle Joe every 6 months. Like, you know what I'm saying? And hey, to each his own, but I think there should definitely be some boundaries.
Okay. Before Mr. Koshan speaks, I did want to throw that out there. Even when it came to when Miss Tavana was speaking about, having a conversation with the other, you in a quote unquote your bonus babies. I don't call nobody else kids bonus babies or they're my step kids. When I say they're my kids, but I could recall some years ago, I was dating this guy that I'd known over 10 years. And he literally, of course, he had a child on the way, but this was before me and him started dating. But when we ended up becoming together and actually getting into a relationship, I distinctly remember him telling me, he said, "Hey, well, I want to have a conversation with their dad." So I spoke to my kid's dad and I said, "Hey, well, he wants to have a conversation with you." And he was just like, "For what? For what? For what? What we need to have a conversation about?" I said, "Well, he said that because he knows that he's going to be around your children, he wants to have a conversation with you so there will be no disrespect. He wants to come to you man to man, but there's, of course, it's a difference when a man trying to do something and when it's a little boy's reaction." And I don't know. I didn't understand that part, but
I
I
want
didn't
to chime
understand
in.
why he didn't agree with that. Cause I was like, well, he's being a man.
So
It's
I've
called
been.
maturity.
It's called maturity, right?
Yeah,
Some
Mm-hmm.
people,
Right.
some people are more mature than
yeah,
others. That's what I
yep.
was going
Right.
to say. I've been in situations where, I've dated women with children. I have kids, and um, I wanted to at one point only date women with children because I wanted to be with someone that understood sacrifice and unconditional love, and understanding that, hey, I may not have time to do this because my child has to do X, Y, Z. I had one son at the time, but um, a young lady that I dated, she had two kids. I was really close with her children. Her son and my son were the same age, and whenever I bought something for my son, I'd buy for hers or something that they could use together. I treated her daughter like my own, and I too I wanted to meet their parents, right? And she asked, she was like, "Well, why is that?" I'm like, "Well, first of all, I'm surprised that they don't want to meet me because we started living together." And I'm like, I'm I'm a man, and maybe they trust you in your judgment, but I would want to meet the guy that's living with my children, that's in the
Mm-hmm.
house with my kids, so that we can set boundaries, we can have a level of communication between us when it comes to children and their children. But one of the guys never ever ever wanted to meet with he never wanted to meet me.
Mm.
We dated for some years, and even after we broke up, I kept in touch with her children. Like I they could call me for anything, even into college, into graduate school. I've assisted them with jobs. Like we still have that relationship where they can call me without their mom being around. And one day, her daughter graduated college and got accepted into a graduate school. And I was like, congratulations. Like, I'm proud of you. And if you ever need anything, yada, yada. And the dude made a slick comment about this his child. Don't be calling his child baby or something like.
Mm.
So she was upset because she immediately deleted the post, right? And she was like, "Well, I know how you can be, and I didn't want you all to go back and forth." I'm like, "Why would we even have to go back and forth? Like, dude, the only thing you should be saying is thank you, you know?
Hmm.
Because when I was
Amen.
there, you never, ever, ever had to do anything for this child." Um, but back to what Tavana said, it comes down to maturity because, in contrast, my oldest son mother, remarried, and I had before they even started dating, when the guy met her at a wedding, they were both in a wedding together, and we all knew one another. And he contacted me, and he said, "Man, I know you and your son's mom haven't dated in years." I was like, "Nah, man, we haven't been together in years." I was like, "What's up?" I kind of knew where he was going, and he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Man, we were in a wedding. We've been hanging out the past few weeks and just talking and laughing, man. And I kind of like her." And I was like, "You know what? You're actually a good person for her." Because he was a good guy. He was a good guy. He's the type of person that I would want dating my sister. and
Mm.
and I'm like, man, I commend you for even approaching me in that way. And I assure you, you have nothing to worry about. We're good friends, but there's nothing going on with us. I respect her. You know, I wouldn't play with her like that. And they, eventually got married. Um, so look, we talk about the being mature, and I feel like it is something that should be discussed. Um, I think that the parties should sit down. All parties should sit down and say, "Hey, these are my expectations. Um, hey, if my child needs to be disciplined and you're in the home with them, I trust what you're doing. Um, I don't expect my child to have a black eye. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's different. But if you have rules in your home, I think, and my child, if he lives with you, he should abide by those rules. And when my son moved in with me and my wife, he knew that, hey, we're one family. We have expectations. This is what it is. And my son actually communicated better with my wife than he did with me because I didn't know how to communicate with children. And I'm going to be honest with about that. My son and I, we talk a lot more now, but he's 29 years old. But when he was 13, 14, I felt like I'm the adult, I'm the father, I know what's right. I don't want you to experience that side of the world, right? So just listen to what I'm saying. And when he didn't listen, I felt like I could discipline him and he would listen, but I realized that even if he did, he was only listening out of fear. So I had to try a different approach with my child as far as some Socratic dialogue, just probing questions and making him think his way through. That way, when I'm not around or when he is of age and he doesn't fear me anymore, he can make the right decision. So I try to take that approach with my child. If I'm dating someone and they have kids, I feel like I'm going to try to be positive. I want to be um, able to communicate with them. I want them to be able to come and talk to me about certain things, and establish a relationship that would extend beyond. Well, if you're in a relationship with a person, you hope it lasts forever. But if it doesn't, I think that if their kids still feel like they can reach out to me, I've done my part
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that.
Right. Okay. This is off topic. I see my brother came in, and I just want to say hey to my brother. That's all.
Okay, who's your brother, Sharon?
Yes, that is my blood brother. That is my
Okay.
brother.
Hey, welcome. Welcome. Dewana, you want to speak to him?
Can I say something?
Yes,
Hey
yes.
there. Thank you for joining us and supporting your sister.
Yes,
If you
yes,
have
yes.
any other questions or want to chime in on anything, just hit us in the chat.
Go ahead, Nicole. We have 2 minutes remaining.
Okay. I just want to chime in because I've been a stepmom. I wouldn't even say stepmom. I was married. I had a living stepson. He lost his mom at a young age. I never looked at him different than my child. And I know he was experiencing things. We did counseling together. I think I did more for him than than his father, to be honest. And when we split up, I ran into him maybe like a year or so later. And when he saw me, he dropped his head. It bothered me because I knew that a picture was painted that I was the bad person while we wasn't together. But that didn't bother me. Getting on another level, I have another stepson that I pretty much raised. Him and my son is like 9 months apart. This guy has never called me my real name. Everything is Mardukes. Me and his dad didn't work out. I got married. My husband always had an issue with him coming to the house, being with my kids. And I couldn't understand that because he's an innocent child. They're siblings. It has nothing to do with you. But it says a lot about a person when you see these irregular behavior. But long story short, the guy that I'm seeing now, he even met that guy and he's like, all I want somebody to make my mom happy. And this is a stepchild. So it tells you, like I've done my part as a stepmom